Hello everyone, I am Tessellating Hexagons, and the Eurovision season is really picking up speed now, and yet here I am still lagging behind, doing one review a day, and I'm only as far as Belarus. Now, do I love Belarus this year? Well, that's to come later on in the review. For some reason, the 2011 entry has been stuck in my head, and it has nothing to do with this song. So, this year, Belarus will be represented by a group by the name of VAL, and a song called Vidna, which is presented completely in the Belarusian language for, well, I would say the first time in ages, first time since 2017. Nice to have you back, Belarusian. I have missed you as a language, you're not here anywhere near enough. And the title means Until Dawn, or something like that. I asked several people and everyone ignored me when I asked, but I'm fairly sure it means Until Dawn. It is not, in fact, about Mr. David Na, the alter ego of Serhat, who sponsored San Marino last year. Anyway, music by Władysław Peszkiewicz and Valeria, oh goodness me, that's a name, Hrubusava, and lyrics by Mikita Najonov. I am so bad at Belarusian names! It's a tricky language, because, I'm not great with Russian, and I'm not great with Polish, and this is, the hardest parts of both, so I'm sorry for butchering those names, but I still support you sending songs in the Belarusian language, because it's pretty. Anyway, on with the review. So, firstly, right out of the gate, well, I'm going to say it one more time. Yay! Belarusian language at Eurovision! As a language, it really does deserve more love, because we had it, for 2 or 3 years in the junior contest, and then again in 2014, and then 2017 at the adult contest, and now this year, we need more Belarusian. So I'm glad to see that Belarus as a country is still proud of their roots, and that 2017 wasn't just a one-off as far as the adult contest is concerned. So yeah, this is a song? I mentioned in another review this year that I really liked Chmarki by Schumer back in 2018 from the national final that year, so I was sort of expecting this to kind of be of that flavour, so to put it on and get this curious quasi-pop number was kind of quite a surprise, but by no means an unwelcome one. In that same way that Germany's song this year reminds me, and apparently only me, of a slightly more serious Say Na Na Na, this sort of sounds to my ear like a more serious, or at the very least a less self-aware, less tongue-in-cheek, sort of mirror world counterpart to Lithuania's song this year. I don't think they merit any comparison beyond that, but I bet that won't stop the fandom at large from drawing unfair comparisons to things that don't make sense, so let's just put that aside and focus on this song 100% for a hot while here. So, right out of the gate, I want to praise how unapologetic this song is as a whole. While presented as a quirky pop song, it is still unabashedly traditional in the ideas that it brings to the table. That is, the fact that it's in the lesser spotted Belarusian language that I keep going on about, but as well, it tells a traditionally Slavic tale, or so the band claims anyway, the story of escaping an unhappy marriage and finding freedom in the nighttime, which, or so I hope, isn't a euphemism? Tee-hee? Nevertheless, despite bringing all of these cultural esotericisms to the table, it remains a profoundly accessible song no matter where you're from, and it comes organically, rather than sounding like a compromise on the part of the band. For instance, take the main musical drop that rears its head now and again in the song. Even if you don't speak the language, that's still something you can latch onto and vibe with. It's decently memorable, and it even makes the titular lyrical hook something that non-speakers can still attach themselves to. It's kind of like Belarus's answer to Polygenova's O Daj mi Ljubov ta from 2016, in other words. Even further beyond that, too, they bring some seriously tight choreography to this song, or, well, they did in the national final anyway. As well as converging and diverging in ways that looked coherent with one another, they bring it all together with that identifying gesture of that hand-eye thing. This, although I think it's with the other hand, but whatever. I've praised such ideas before as a means of giving songs a persistent identity that makes it stick around beyond the 3-minute time limit, and this is one such thing. What more needs to be said there? I mean, apart from the death drop in the choreography during the national final performance, that takes talent and nerve. It didn't save Portugal last year, mind you, but still, it is admirable skill of quite some serious gravity. And finally, sort of uniting all of the aforementioned, I would say that VAL, as a group, have excellent synergy with one another. This is especially obvious with the choreography, but it goes beyond that as well. In interviews and whatnot, as well as on stage, they look like they want to be there performing together. They want to be sharing this song and their culture. That makes it so much easier to invest in the song and the performance. They believe in each other and in their song, and that's infectious. So we end up believing in them and what they believe in by proxy, even if we can't necessarily understand what the song is about. Still though, this sort of thing isn't for everyone, I readily acknowledge that. For instance, just before I started recording this video, I recommended the song to a friend of mine who lives in America, and he came back to me and said that he didn't make it as far as the first bridge, so it doesn't click with everyone, and that's fine and valid too. For one thing, for all the praise that I heaped upon the choreography of this performance, I do think that it still looked more than a little bit lost on the national final stage. I was very aware that I was watching 3 people and a lot of empty space, even with the camera work and the well-coordinated LED background. It's certainly something that could be fixed in time for the contest, especially once they have the floor plans of the actual stage to work with, but if they don't fix it by then, it's gonna cause nigh irreparable damage. If the performance got swallowed up by that stage, what hope does it have on one as big as the one that we'll be seeing in Rotterdam? Even setting that aside, while I maintain that the song should still be praised for how generally accessible it is, despite including more than a handful of native Belarusisms, if you don't speak the language, or one very similar to it, still, you're probably not going to fully appreciate the song, since neither the music nor any particular aspect of the live performance really conveys all that much about the story that transcends the language barrier. It gets the emotion across of, yes, time to party, but nothing really more nuanced than that, and that might leave some people out in the cold, as it were. Like, I got the impression that the story they were going for was a bit of a serious, I'm in an unhappy marriage, I'm going to go out and party, and I would expect there to be some sort of melancholy to that, but no, it's just Harvey Wallbanger. I don't know, I think that's a cocktail? What? I don't know what that is. But anyway, perhaps as an extension of that, this is almost definitely a me thing, but after a while, bearing in mind I don't speak the language, I start to get a little bit annoyed by the title. I don't know what it is about it. Maybe it's how it's sung, or how frequently it's sung, or the fact that while I know what it means, I don't inherently, instinctively, natively understand what it means. Like, I have to translate it in my head before I fully appreciate it, but for whatever reason, it just starts to sound like noise after a while, and that sort of begins to grate. I don't hold it against them by any means, but is it just me? I know it's a me thing, but is anyone else out here feeling this as well? I don't want this song to annoy me, and for the most part, honestly, it doesn't. It's just that one component, it deserves better from me. As a song, as a whole, they deserve more respect from me than I'm giving it so far, and I recognise that. Now then, let's try to compile all of that into a number. Kinda tricky. I definitely like this one, but how much do I like it? I think this is another 8 out of 10 with room to increase kind of situation. I definitely, in case it wasn't clear, like the fact that it's in Belarusian, and I like their aesthetic. That is, their choreography, their costume style, their LED background design, even the song's cover art. Seriously, look it up, it's pretty. I enjoy the drop as well. It's not quite as egregious as Poland 2018 in terms of I wouldn't expect to hear this at the start of like a 12-year-old's Minecraft Let's Play, so that's a sign of a good drop that it doesn't sound like that. So yeah, there's a lot to like here, and yet there's something, and I cannot put my finger on what it is, but there is something that holds me back from going all out crazy and falling in love with this song. I really don't know what else it would have to do to convince me though. Maybe I'll just need to stew on it for a bit longer before I can come to any solid personal conclusions. Mercifully though, I find the technical rating so much easier to land on, and that takes the form of a definite 9 out of 10. The song does a lot right, as I've already said, blending tradition with accessibility in a way that just plain old works, as well as bringing an engaging stage performance with a memorable hook and an identifying gesture. True, there is something in there that doesn't quite resonate with me within the hook, but I don't know what that is. But one thing that I am sure of is that the song kind of ends a bit sooner and a bit more abruptly than one might expect. If nothing else, one would expect that the instrumental drop would occur 3 times or more throughout the song, but the track ends just after the second iteration of it. I think it does. Anyway, I'm starting to have doubts now. Maybe I'm just missing a bit of closure and that's what's messing with my head. Who knows? Either way, Belarus can be proud of sending a song like this, and that is worthy of recognition, even if nothing else. I know that I've gone a little bit crazy here. So then, is this a good move for Belarus as a whole? Absolutely, it's not even a question. While it's great that they're sending a song in Belarusian without any hesitation or second thoughts, that's actually not my main reason for praising this. Rather, well, they brought back televoting in their national final. By itself, that doesn't sound all that impressive, unless you think about it for a second. Last year's national final was 100% jury voting, which begs the question of why they even bothered televising it in the first place. Without public input, a national final just comes across as, hey, look at this parade of songs that won't represent us, featuring one actual Eurovision entry that we've decided on without your help. And all that does is engender distaste on the parts of anyone who prefers any of the other songs in the lineup. Well, Belarus did not make that mistake 2 years running, so naturally this is a positive step. As I said, the native culture aspect helps with that as well, because, you know, it's good to see that it wasn't written off just for not being in English, like certain other countries would have done, legitimately naming no names this time. But now, the impossible task of predicting where it will land on the scoreboard. Well, it's in semi-final 1, alongside more than a handful of other countries that will appreciate the musical style and linguistic choice, but still, I'm a little bit worried. Not only is it in the same semi-final as Lithuania, it's in the same half of the running order as well, and the inevitable comparisons between the two are probably going to cost Belarus dearly. On the other side of that, Ukraine is also taking the traditional culture angle this year in the same semi-final, granted in the other half of the semi-final, and this song is sort of a Belarus-flavoured middle ground between Ukraine and Lithuania. To that end, I could see this missing the final, and that's sad, to be honest. I want this to do well. But nevertheless, I have concerns, and I have doubts, but more than anything else, I have a burning desire to see those fears proven completely wrong in May. We'll just have to wait and see what happens, though. So, what do you lovely people think? Do you think I'm completely wrong and this actually does stand a shot at reaching the top 3 at the end of the voting, or do you think that it's probably going to crash and burn? I honestly want to hear what people think, because this is a tough one to call, bearing in mind it's the middle ground between songs that people feel more strongly about. Let me hear from you. iCard, comments, you know the deal at this point. But yeah, to VAL, to Team Belarus, I wish you the very best of luck, and once again, good on you for going Belarusian this year. See you in May.